that run to trouble when others run from it. Pray for peace upon our citizens of Westlake, and I just pray a blessing upon all of us that we would lead and love well, be grateful. So many blessings. Thank you so much. Giver of every good gift. To Jesus that I ask it. Amen.
Usher, thanks for being here again. Thank you. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Flag.
One nation.
Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance. One state, God, one. Thank you. I'd like to start agenda item C1, Town of Westlake full year 24-25 budget work session. Casey, how are you? Hot.
All right. Well, I am here to do the final update on the proposed fiscal year 25 budget. And then you won't hear from me about it for another month. All right. Just to recap, we are looking at $28 million in all total operating revenues and $24.5 million in expenditures for the fiscal year 25 budget, which will leave about $4.6 million in contributions to fund balance or retained earnings. That includes keeping the tax rate flat. It includes the 5.25 FTEs that Council has given pre-approval for, all of the staff adjustments for both town and academy. It also includes the increased amount of 1.7 for the academy subsidy and the 1.4 million for capital equipment, including 1.3 of it being for the fire engine replacement.
I got to say this. Casey, Wade, thank you. Like, I love, and Mike, you probably had something to do with this, but I love starting this presentation with the answers. Tells us exactly where we are. Now you can get in the detail, but I love this format. So,
excellent. Thank you. All right. And so what that means really year over year for us is about $150,000 decrease in revenues, or what we're projecting right now. The majority of that has to do with a decrease in one-time revenues that we saw during fiscal year 24 related to development. And then it's about $1 million increase in operating expenditures. Again, that includes the $1.3 million in fire engine replacement. So really what we're doing, if we back out the capital expenditures, we are down a little bit year over year. And then specifically what we're talking about in the general fund is a contribution of about $1.5 million for the upcoming year. Again, we're going to earmark that for capital and let that fall into fund balance so that we can provide for future needs. And then for the utility fund, what you'll see is effectively a flat revenue. We're not proposing any changes to water or sewer rates for fiscal year 25. And then for the expenditures, there is a slight decrease that has more to do with moving debt payments into their own fund and not marrying them into the operating fund here. But it also includes the 2 additional public works employees in the back trailer. Any questions on budget numbers before we get to schedule fund stuff? All right. So on Friday, the proposed budget was filed in accordance with state law with the town secretary. It's been posted online. That'll be available for public comment for the next 30 days. We'll be advertising next month for our public hearings that will occur during the September 16th regularly scheduled meeting, at which point the council will be asked to vote on the tax rate and the budget. And then we'll be all done with fiscal year 25 adopted budget.
Great job, Casey. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
any questions? Do we ever get any public comments on the budget?
We've not gotten any in the last year.
Okay.
We've got an email address, townhall@westlaketx.gov, if anybody would like to submit them.
So the answer is no, which is what I thought you were going to say.
Yes.
Good. Great. Any questions?
You've done a great job the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Okay, we will close out of the work session, go to the regular meeting. Do we have any citizen or parent comments? I do not think we do. And let's go into items of community interest. Mr. Sasser.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I got a quick list here and then a few additional items to share with each of you guys. First thing is that Town Hall will be closed as well as the Municipal Court on Monday, September 2nd to observe the Labor Day holiday. Next Town Council meeting will actually be on a Tuesday for anybody who is interested in attending. Because of that holiday, it's going to be September 3rd beginning at 4 o'clock. Our new family breakfast at Westlake Academy is going to be held on Friday, September 6th from 8 to 9:30. That's going to be at the Westlake Academy Dining Hall. Our next planning and zoning meeting will be on September 10th at 5 o'clock. That's a Tuesday. And then our second town council meeting of September will be Monday. It will resume on Monday, September 16th at 4 o'clock. Some additional items I wanted to bring up were we had a very successful Board of Trustees breakfast at the Academy last week to kind of kick off the school year. It was very well attended. It was great to see so many familiar faces returning from our last year, as well as so many new faces who are ready to educate the kids. And obviously, a welcome to Dr. Ritchie was a huge success, and I know you guys had a great time that day. So it was very kind of you guys, the Board of Trustees, to kick it off and provide those gifts to all the staff. It was well deserved. Our first day of school, as I said, was a big success. We had a brand new drop-off line. So usually any kind of a drop-off and pickup line in any school in the entire country is chaos the first week or so. But with a new drop-off line procedure, needless to say, there were a couple of little things that we had to get past. But now, from what I understand, and Dr. Ritchie, you can certainly help us out, that a lot of those things were worked out, and it seems to be moving a lot smoother these days. So
yeah, they're working really well. So thanks to you guys and Keller PD and Dr. Owen for really taking the lead on that. It's working really well.
Indeed, it seems like the right move to make. So it sounds like a big success all the way around.
Thank you all.
Just a few days ago, I wanted to recap and let you guys know that our good friends at Primrose, Westlake Entrada here stopped by with 32 students to visit Town Hall. It's great, the success we've seen from our partners there over the last 7 years since they've opened up. Has been great. We had 32 kids this time. I think we had like 20 last year, and it seems to grow every single year. So that was a lot of fun. They stopped by, and you could tell that they were very excited about being here. And I would like to think that they were excited about getting back to school as well. So
That was fun, and thanks for setting that up. We had a couple of our Westlake students in the group at Primrose, but they do a fabulous job. We're so glad they're in Westlake.
yeah, they sure do. And then just a reminder, we are 30 days out from the Blacksmith Giving Day. The goal this year is $1.25 million. So obviously, that's a huge deal, and it all goes to the fund there. And I know that Dr. Myers and the whole group put a lot of effort into that. So mark your calendars for that, because it's going to be a very exciting day, as it always is for us. And last but not least, I wanted to recap a very exciting event that happened this weekend. It was the Military Heroes Run. They had 399 people register for the race, the 5K and the 10K combined. They raised a total of $19,000, which their goal really is to cover the expenditures for the race, and they did that and then some. I think they're more than $2.2 million in the 13 years that they've had this event, and this is the fourth year that it's been here in Westlake. So that was very exciting. I spoke with the organizer this afternoon. She absolutely raved about the condition of the trails and everything that Westlake did, and wanted to specifically thank Public Works for all their hard work for cleaning up the trails. And they were already in great condition, but to really anytime you have a trail system with crushed granite and so forth, you could run across a pothole here and there, but it was all perfect, and they absolutely raved about it. And then also, I wanted to bring up that, and we're going to poke a little fun at our good friend Mayor Tiffany across the street. I think there was a comment about over the weekend of do you think the Heroes Run is going to return to Trophy Club? And they said, absolutely not. This is our home for good. We have so next time we see Mayor Tiffany, we're going to have to give her a little dig there, right?
That's good. I'm sure I'll see her soon.
Yeah. So, no, we love her, and we love our friends over at Trophy Club. But that was great to hear. And then, Mayor, from what I understand, you have something to add to this as well.
Yeah. So we had a very special event. We have a council person that's been at every one of those runs. The 4 years been in Westlake, and her and her husband left early. Let me do the appropriate music. Dr. Anna White won first in her age group. She didn't get her.
I didn't, did I?
Yes, she did. So, I'm sure this will surprise you about Dr. White. Her husband, Stephen, who's a really good runner, was running with her the whole way. About 20 yards to the finish line, she takes off. So I have a picture. She's about 10 yards in front of her. So anyway, it is a great event. We're going to run next year. It's been 390 plus. I encourage everybody to do it, and the cause is fabulous for our wounded military heroes. So,
And
thank
it is
you.
great. Even though it's summer, it was 7 a.m., so it was perfect weather. Yeah, perfect.
It was
weather.
hot.
It wasn't that bad.
Anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir. And those are your items of community interest.
Next is presentation, item G on the agenda, presentation to discuss concerning 2024 Westlake Academy student performance on the International Baccalaureate, IB, and Advanced Placement AP assessment. Dr. Owens and Mr. Llewellyn. How are y'all?
Good, thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and the board. So I'm just going to do a brief intro just to explain how we're going to do the presentations. Mr. Llewellyn will go through the IB exams, and then I'll go through the AP exams. Our presentation reflects the packet that board members received. We're just going to focus on the successes, the areas for growth, and the action steps that we're going to take to address those areas of growth. We're not going to go through the appendices, but if any board member has a specific question about any subject, we'll be happy to go to that specific page and talk through it.
Thank you very much for having us this evening. We're very excited to present to you the results for the exams for the class of 2024, the IB exams. There's a lot to celebrate here. So first, a couple of points just for context. Westlake Academy is not the same as every other IB school out there. Westlake Academy is an IB for all school, and we're very proud of the fact that we extend the benefits of the diploma program and the other programs in IB to all students regardless of their academic backgrounds. Other schools against which we are compared in the data are more highly selective schools, many of them. You see a lot of private schools that are accepting based on merit. And you see a lot of large public schools that will have a diploma program, but only a small fraction of the graduating class will take those diploma courses, and it tends to be the highest achievers of those graduating classes. So this is how the IB exams work. Every IB diploma candidate takes exams and submits coursework for 6 subjects. And they also complete a theory of knowledge course as well as writing an extended essay. The IB diploma, we tell our students once they get into the diploma program, for all intents and purposes, they are in college. That's how we want them to treat it. That's what it's like. So the IB diploma is very rigorous. Earning the IB diploma is not the same as earning a high school diploma. It is much, much harder, and it requires you to average a passing grade of a 4 across all of your 6 IB subjects that you're taking. And each one of those is going to be graded out of a maximum of 7 points. And you're also getting up to 3 core points that are available for your performance on the TOK course as well as on the extended essay. 24 points are required in order to earn the IB diploma. So how did we do? This year, 47 out of 62 students earned their IB diploma, which is 76% of the graduating class. The global average was 80%. The U.S. national average was 65%, which we are significantly above, and the Texas state average was 54%, which again, we are even further ahead of that rate. As I said, we have a lot to celebrate this year. These were some of our successes. We had more high-achieving students this year compared to last year and compared with most years, with over 25% of every exam taken earned either a 6 or a 7. This is the second best result we've ever had. Similarly, the average score of an IB recipient was a 5.16, again, out of 7 points, which is the highest we've ever had. The average score in 15 out of 20 DP subjects that we offer at Westlake Academy was as high or higher this year than it was last year. So we are seeing growth. HL English and HL History are staples of Westlake Academy's DP, and we are very proud of the results that they receive every year, and this year was no exception. They were very strong again this year. We are very strong in math and science at Westlake Academy. The mathematics courses continue to excel. All of our mathematics courses were above the global average. Chemistry and physics were significantly above the global average. Biology and environmental science were approximately equal to the global average this year, but that marks a significant improvement over previous years in those courses. And lastly, ab initio Spanish and French earned the best results that we've had for at least going back 5 years. There are some opportunities for growth in the data as well. 76% of students earning their IB diploma is lower than the global average. It has been a while since we've been below the global average, and that is generally our goal is to match or exceed that boundary. I was able to get feedback from the teachers regarding where our students were at in January of this year leading up to the IB exams, so that I could kind of tell where our students were at. Based on that feedback I gathered from teachers, I identified 20 students that were considered at risk of not earning their diploma, and I wanted to gain some insight into these students and kind of learn a little bit more about them and about their struggles so that we could help to address some of those things in the future. HL Biology and HL Economics. Both of these courses showed growth from the previous years, so we are happy with what we're seeing with those subjects, but there is still room for growth. They are higher level courses, and it is very important that our students are passing their higher level courses in order to get those IB diplomas, and both of those courses still had below an 80% pass rate on this graduating class. And lastly, Theory of Knowledge and Extended Essay, the core part of the diploma program. We did not have any student this year that earned all 3 core points. We did have a lot that earned 2 out of 3 core points, but even with as many as we had this year, we were still below the global average in those parts of the diploma. So this, based on the data, is our action plan. Last year, we really wanted to see some growth on the higher achieving levels of our exams, and we did see that this year. This year, our goals are specifically to address those students who are not earning the diploma. How can we increase that percentage? So the first action item is to work with teachers to set goals to help us re-invite disengaged students back into the learning, and along with that, to differentiate the instruction for the various needs of the different levels of learner that we have in our classroom. We also have new teachers in TOK, and we also have a new extended essay coordinator, and we would seek IB workshops for those teachers as well to give those teachers the training they need to help bring the core to the diploma program and really hopefully improve our results in those ways. We've already started this one. The secondary teachers are going to look at the exam data and set goals for themselves individually, but also meet within their departments and set goals with the other teachers in the department. Because the results on the IB exams are not just tied to the diploma program, they're also tied to all of the work that they do leading up to the diploma program at Westlake Academy, and we want to involve all of the teachers within a department and make sure our curricula are aligned vertically. We want to help students select courses in which they can be successful. And we want to provide intervention as needed for those students who might be at risk. And so this is something that I hope to be able to identify these students sooner so that I can start to have those conversations with them and help them regain some of that confidence that maybe they don't have. Okay, and as Dr. Owen indicated, I'm not going to go through the individual points of data in the appendix unless there are specific questions that address any of those. I will show you our histogram of scores that we had here. No, that's not showing up. And this tells you the scores that every one of our students earned this year. You can see 24 points was required to pass, and we did have a significant population of students that were really close to that boundary that are on 22 or 23 points. Compared to previous years' histograms, we see a lot more students on the right-hand side tail spread out across that upper 30s and even lower 40s that we did earn this year. So that explains how it is possible that we had fewer students earning the diploma, and yet we saw such tremendous success within the subject averages themselves, because our data is more spread out than it's been in the past. And that's what I have for the IB exams. Are there any questions?
Questions?
You know, I did want to say something. I really appreciate your action plan. When I came here about 12 years ago to bring my kids to the school, Westlake was known as tremendously exceptional in public speaking and writing and AP history, IB history. That was one of the reasons I brought my kids here. But we weren't as well known for math and science. And I have to say that we really need to change the narrative around the school, because over the last 5 to 7 years, we've really recruited some exceptional science and math teachers, both math, chemistry, biology, computer science, physics. Golden boy right there. So we really need to change the narrative, because we are exceptional in science and math and STEM as well now. And I really think that's a message that needs to get out there. And I appreciate your areas for growth.
Yes, thank you very much for that comment. It's absolutely true. We place a lot of students into STEM programs at universities. We're very proud of the success students are having in those programs.
And I just want to echo Anna's comments on being able to, Dr. Owens, we talked about this last year. How do you identify students are struggling, kind of get an action plan and kind of work through that? Thanks for the plan.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Now the AP presentation. Okay, I first just want to begin by giving the rationale for why we do AP exams, because Westlake Academy, we are an IB continuum school. IB is our priority, always. So I just want to explain why we also do AP exams, the benefits for the students, the benefits for the school as well. So our vision, Westlake Academy inspires college-bound students to achieve their highest individual potential in a nurturing environment that fosters the traits found in the IB learner profile. So giving students the opportunity to take AP exams at Westlake Academy, this is part of students achieving their highest individual potential. It gives them more opportunities for success. And we believe at Westlake, through proper support for our teachers, we can teach AP courses, but still through the lens of the IB approaches to learning, the approaches to teaching the learner, the IB learner profile as well. And in taking AP exams, we are fostering assessment-capable learners, which is so critical for success on the IB exams that our students take at the end of their senior year. So ways in which it supports the school's success. By taking AP exams, we're seeing more and more AP scholars who are being recognized by the College Board and getting further College Board national recognition. It makes our students more competitive in their college applications as well. It's a powerful narrative when not only are students undertaking the rigor of an IB program, but they're pushing themselves further by taking AP exams as well. It highlights what a fantastic school we are as well. For example, earlier this year, we were awarded platinum status by the College Board for the number of students and the success of the students on their AP exams. Only 6% of schools nationwide who do AP exams were awarded platinum status. So that was a huge plus for the school. And also, it does raise our school profile as well. The higher percentage of our graduates who are taking these high-level exams, IB, AP, it just contributes to our national rankings.
Did we receive platinum before?
No, this was the first time. Yes.
Well done.
So just to look in just a little bit more detail about our offerings for AP exams, we had some new offerings this year, which is why 494 AP exams is the most that our students have ever taken in Westlake history. And there is a distinction to be made. In 9th and 10th grade, the 5 AP classes that we offer there are taught as official AP classes. So the full syllabus is followed. When we get to the 11th grade, the priority is the IB diploma, and nothing's going to change that. But where possible, if there is alignment in the curriculum between the IB syllabus and the AP syllabus, our teachers will try and align that content and skills so students have the opportunity to take the AP exams if they wish and be successful as well. So in terms of the areas of success, because we've introduced more AP exams this year, and also because our teachers have just done such a fantastic job of preparing the students, we had a record number of AP scholars this year, 92, the previous high being 58. So to be an AP scholar, you need to be taking at least 3 AP exams and averaging a 3 or above. We had 31 AP scholars with distinction, another record. AP scholars with distinction have taken at least 5 AP exams and averaging 3.5 or above across those 5 exams as well. So that is very strong indeed. And also, whilst we're seeing more students take more AP exams, their level of achievement has also gone up as well. So 77% of those 494 exams taken were at a 3 or above. AP is scored on 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. Again, this was significantly higher than our previous best. In terms of historic trends, 8 out of the 11 AP subjects which our students tested in over the last 3 years had the highest average student score this year, and 11 out of the 15 AP subjects tested were above the national average as well. And again, to speak to Dr. White's point, when you look at some of the data, physics is strong, pre-calculus was strong, chemistry was strong, and of course I have to mention that history was strong as well. One thing also that I especially want to point out is AP pre-calculus was a new course this year for us. We had 20 students to take it. 19 got the maximum score of a 5. So obviously very happy for Sarah Thomas, who taught that course, for preparing our students so well. That is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like that before. Again, it speaks to our strength in math at Westlake Academy. There are still areas of growth, things that we definitely want to work on. We are still growing in terms of our strength in AP biology and in environmental science. The scores were definitely moving in the right direction, still a little bit below the national average, and it reflects the growth that we're seeing with our IB bio scores as well, moving in the right direction, definitely, but still more room for growth. We also had, and I'm very proud of this, we had US government for the first time as an AP class as well. This is just a 1-semester course. The students either took it in the first semester or the second semester. So there's room for growth there, especially students who took it in the first semester and then have to take the exam 4 months later. And then finally, what we also always want to make sure is IB remains our priority. So I think there's still room for growth in ensuring that the teachers in 11th grade, when they're having to teach IB content and AP content at the same time, they're still getting the support that they need to make sure that there's full fidelity to IB. So in terms of the action plan, we want to stay on this trend of success, being above the national average in AP exams. So just as Mr. Llewellyn works with the IB teachers on data analysis, we break down the different components of an exam, see where we're strong, and we can reinforce that, see particular content areas of a subject that need more refinement. Well, I will meet with the AP teachers and work with them on data analysis, and we'll make room for some AP mock exams as well in March and April. So teachers get one final data set prior to the exams in May. And then finally, just also, again, just giving teachers the support that they need. So even when addressing AP content and AP skills, the fidelity is still to the IB approaches to teaching and learning, and no teacher ever has to feel that their fidelity to the IB is diminished by teaching AP exams. This is all very much keeping with the vision of Westlake Academy of helping students reach their highest. If there's any questions on AP, I'll be happy.
Any questions? Well done. Thank you all, and thank you for everything you do, and I hope you have a great first semester. We're off to a good start.
And Dr. Owens, can I just say one thing about the AP?
Yeah.
You know, I think over the years, there's been a lot of debate whether we should continue taking AP as well as IB, and does it detract? Is it too onerous? And I think those are really valid concerns. Speaking just as an N of one with 2 kids that have gone through this, I really want to emphasize the part of your presentation when you talk about aligning the IB and the AP curriculum. I think the fear for parents is that you're working too hard by doing both. But what I've observed over the years is your staff, both the MYP as well as the DP, is tremendously skilled in working smart as well as hard. I would dare say that some of the ISD students work even harder, but maybe not as smart. But I'm biased here at Westlake Academy. But you guys do a tremendous job, and I'm very grateful to that.
Thank you. And we are always wary of, the IB learner profile of balance is important. We want our students to be taking care of themselves. Self-care, well-being is very important. We're always very mindful of that as well in the work that we set. And also in terms of striking that balance, the data does show that when students are exposed to cumulative exams earlier on, they feel much more confident when they take their IB exams, which is the ultimate goal in terms of getting their diploma.
Right.
And I just want to echo, and we're working kind of on an elevator speech for the school in town, but we have students that go off to college, and they're entering college as sophomores because of the credits they're getting on the college. I mean, I don't think we publicize that enough. I'm not sure that all parents, including this one, understood that enough till a few years ago. So that is really, really something, especially with the cost of college and everything else, but it's just phenomenal.
That's good feedback. Thank you very much.
Questions? Thank you all. Okay, agenda item H, the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to pull out of the consent agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I do want to make a comment. Dinah, we are so glad you're here. You accepted the job. Your knowledge and the best practices and the influence you've had over this council so far has been tremendous. So we're so glad you're here. Thanks for being here. I'd like to now go to agenda item 1.1, public hearings. 1.1, hold public hearings, discuss and consider an act to adopt Ordinance 1001, approving amendments to Ordinance 703 and 720 as amended, which includes the development plan for the PD1-2 Westlake Entrada zoning districts, amendments to the development plan, specifically Westlake Entrada blocks B, K, L, lots 1 and 2, P, Q, and Westlake South Park Addition, number 1, block 1, lot 2R1, Tarrant County, Texas. The properties are generally located east of Davis Boulevard, south of State Highway 114, and north of the Solana Boulevard. Wait, are you taking this, or that's a lot?
That is, and thank you for reading that, Mayor.
Yes,
that's a tough go.
There's a test later. So,
Helen E. Beadle is with us online, and she's our contracted planner, and she's going to take us through the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. May I have the next slide, please? All right, we're going to jump right into the development plan. The amendment before you has an effect on certain blocks that have already been platted within the development, where the developer applicant has requested a change to the particular uses on these blocks. I think you're all familiar with the cap of 322 residential units for the Entrada development. And in these land use categories, they have the ability to mix uses around, move things. And this development plan amendment is to address some of the market demands as well as to attract developers, users to the development to make it successful. But more importantly, we are trying to consolidate a number of PD amendments where blocks had been amended into one cohesive development plan. This is a slide that was provided by the applicant, and it identifies the certain blocks that the zoning amendment is limited to. It's block P, B, Q, and K. And next slide, please. This is an example of the existing development plan, that the most recent one that was approved. Next slide, please. And we'll go ahead and jump right into the first block, which is block B. On the northern portion of the development, a hotel is developing, and that use will remain. And there is the opportunity to provide for another hotel at the southern end of that block. And single family attached with a maximum of 43 units, and the remainder being the commercial mixed use with residential on the remainder. On the left, you have the proposed, and on the right, you have the existing for comparison. Next slide, please. Block K is a little bit further south, and this is the block that contained Plaza Mayor. And this amendment on the left identifies the single-family residential in the gold color. The green is part of the parks and open space within the Entrada development. The applicant would like to have the council reconsider at a later time the actual configuration of the open space, the Plaza Mayor. There's thoughts that the way it was originally designed with the west-facing sun and a lot of plaza area and concrete, it wouldn't be inviting when it's so hot like it is right now. The developer has proposed to reduce the density from 150 residential units to 73 single-family attached condominium units. Any of the condominium units in this particular block would require an SUP. And as I mentioned earlier, that the Plaza Mayor configuration and the actual materials for that open space area would be decided in another amendment to Entrada. Next slide, please. The next one is Block P, which you all saw a few months ago, where the two commercial lots at the east and the southwest portion of the block were approved. So the overall development plan amendment will address this particular layout for Block P. The applicant had turned in some information, a slide that you saw earlier identifying 32 residential units on Block P. The amendment that you all looked at earlier this year limited that block to 18 units. And in your P&Z, or in your packet this evening, the draft ordinance on, I believe it's page 3, item 3A, specifically talks to references the number of units. So there's a little bit of difference between what the applicant turned in, what P&Z looked at, and what staff would be recommending. At this point, we'd prefer to just stick with the 18 units, and any type of condominium units in that area would require a specific use permit to come before you. Next slide, please. Block Q, the the image on the left is the proposed. The portion on the right is the existing. And as you all may be familiar, Ordinance 959 removed all residential uses from this particular block, Block Q Phase 2, and it is to contain all sales tax generating type uses. So that's another component to this development plan amendment. Next slide, please. The last block that's in this particular amendment is for the Westlake South Lake Park Addition Block 1 Lot 2 R1, and council, I believe it was in probably April or May, that this particular portion was added into the Entrada development, and the design guidelines and development regulations for this particular tract were established in that ordinance. However, the ordinance before you this evening does amend the latest ordinance. However, on page, let's see, wanted to make sure that it is referenced that the design guidelines and standards, the development setbacks, area regulations, that all of those are to develop according to the Entrada design guidelines that were established in Ordinance 703.
Helen,
Next slide, please. Yes, sir.
On the notation there that the section that's on the slides is to comply with the Entrada standards. I believe that we had previously viewed that as a Knowles standard, not the Entrada standard. Are we reverting that?
No.
No, that was a misinterpretation. So we'll add that as a condition for approval of this plat if you wanted to approve tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Thank you.
good catch.
So just want to make sure I'm following, so that this particular block would comply with the Entrada design guidelines, correct?
No, ma'am, it's going to comply with the Knowles guidelines.
Where the note is down on the bottom, in the white section where it says 100% compliant to Entrada design guidelines, in the ordinance this was originally passed under, it stated that it's to comply with the Knowles design guidelines, not Entrada.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We'll make that change through the conditions.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide, please. And this, once again, is a map that the developer put together, and it clearly identifies the blocks that are contained in this amendment and the areas in purple where no changes are taking place. Next slide, please. And this has a little bit more of the detail that we just went through. Next slide, please. We did go over the developer's request, and it's limited to certain blocks within the Entrada development. When the application came in, there were amendments included for Block L. However, the applicant has removed those, and that's why we did not include any presentation on those. The ordinance before you this evening does not address any of the development standards or uses within Block L. And the purpose of this development plan is really to illustrate the overall massing, unit count, the lot layout of each development, and all of the specifics for each block coming in to be developed. Block and particular lots within those blocks would require a site plan application submission. This development plan amendment is also necessary to facilitate the public improvement district. The service and assessment plan needs to be updated, and I understand you all will probably be seeing that either later in this agenda or next month. Next slide, please. So the summary is to recommend approval of this development plan amendment for the Entrada development. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this item at their last meeting. There was a lot of discussion about delivery trucks blocking fire lanes, poor visibility at the residential drives, and the need for front and rear yard setbacks. And the developer explained that the development had specific standards that were originally designed in this master plan community. And he did also tell the commission that the future site plan applications would certainly address those noted concerns. The commission voted to recommend approval of the request subject to the following conditions. Next slide, please. The footprints of the proposed structure shall be removed from the development plan because it's intended to just illustrate land use categories by color and land use. And that the developer, as I mentioned just a moment ago, will address visibility as well as off-street parking for delivery trucks in future site plan applications. This evening you have 4 options: motion to approve as submitted, or add any additional stipulations or conditions to table this particular item, or a motion to deny the item. And I believe we've just talked about making a change to the ordinance regarding the Knowles design regulations, and perhaps capturing the maximum number of units on Block P to be 18 units. And I am available for any questions you might have at this time. It is a public hearing, and I understand the applicant is here this afternoon should you have some questions for him. Thank you.
So, Mayor and Council, what you have before you is the Entrada PD amendment. Staff is suggesting that we move forward with an approval of the amendment with the conditions that were stated within the presentation, and then the 2 that were added were the Block P, only allowing the max unit of 18, and then in the Westlake Southlake Park edition, we will be developing those to the standards that were already agreed upon within 959.
So I have a couple questions about the units. So when we're saying, for instance, on Block B, 43 units, Block K, 73 units, are those maximum, or are those, because we've removed the footprint, so are those maximum numbers, or?
That's the way this is written today, is those are maximum numbers.
Okay.
Yes.
And just for everybody, our maximum number of residences in Entrada has not changed. It's still
That is correct. We're staying
322.
between
That
322.
number has not
Yes, sir.
changed. Yeah, I know that gets a lot of attention.
The other question I have is because I know we have to marry this with the PID plan. If we remove the site plans, the units, how is that going to affect the lot assessments?
Please. Mary Petty, thank you.
Good afternoon, evening, Council. Mary Petty, P3 Works, we're your PID administrator. That's a great question. So what has to happen is if you're changing zoning, you're not changing the service and assessment plan, because you could change zoning yet again. And so what happens is that zoning will be governing every site plan submittal. Every site plan submittal, when it gets submitted to the town, now has to be submitted to us. And we will reconcile what is being built or requested to be built against the service and assessment plan and what's contemplated. And then most likely, based on what I was hearing, we're going to be issuing mandatory prepayments. So prior to a site plan being approved, that mandatory prepayment would have to be made in order to make the SAP in compliance with what's going to be approved as the zoning.
So just to clarify for myself, so your assessment is showing for the entire block. So as they carve off these lots, that's going to get proportioned. It's not like you have 73 units on that block.
Yes.
Or yes, that's why I'm confused.
So when the property was platted, so the property can get platted by an action of the plat, which is what's happening to all the blocks. Multiple uses within the blocks means multiple lots. Or it can get platted when they file the plat with the infrastructure that they dedicated to the town. So naturally, having roads created those blocks. At that point in time of that filing of that first final plat for the infrastructure to be accepted, those assessments attached to those blocks based on what that development plan was back then. So now that you're changing it, whenever you rezone that block, once it gets replatted again, when that site plan comes in, even if it's only lot 1 of block X, that site plan will have to be evaluated based on the new development plan against the old development plan. And this is one of the exercises I'll explain in a minute. And then that prepayment will be triggered. Whatever the change is will have to be reconciled back to make sure it's in compliance with the original methodology and not exceeding certain components that were required not to be exceeded then.
Okay, great. I was just concerned if we approve a maximum of 80 units, but then they only build 40, what that's going to do.
Yeah, no, that's my fun job.
Okay.
As long as I get the
Lucky
site
you.
plan, as long as I get the site plan, we will reconcile it.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
Thanks
ma'am.
for clarifying.
Any other questions?
Yeah, question for Wade. This is recommended by the staff. So I think, as I interpret it, we have same amount of homes.
That's correct.
A reduction in density, which is a plus, but then a loss of commercial property. So just give me the impetus, or give us the impetus for the recommendation, and of course, if the developer is appropriate, just tell us why staff is recommending this.
Well, the loss of commercial is very minor. What you'll see is in the development plan, you're going to see a push of all of that commercial up into Block Q. So there will be a little bit of a loss of commercial in the Plaza Mayor, but the reality was working with the developer and several realtors in town, several other developers in town as well. Their suggestion is that Plaza Mayor was not going to be able to be developed the way it was. It just wouldn't get the usage that we'd want. It's surrounded by 2 large hotels faced west, and that you were going to have to change that in the future no matter what. And it would be much better to change it now and go to a single-family attached that could be used as condominiums or could be used as multi-level condominiums that might address some of the parking on the bottom floor. That opening is still available to us, and which would allow some commercial use on that second floor, much like the ones you're seeing Israel Bernal put up today. So that's the hope for us in the future, is that we can address those concerns as they come forward in the future. So we've left that door open and available for us for a little bit more commercial, but then again, following kind of the design requirements, or not requirements, but the suggestions by the developers.
And is there like a driving force behind this? We have residential under development now. We have inventory of residential available now. Is there something driving the timing of the change?
No, sir. I don't believe there's anything driving this timing other than the fact that we really need the PID assessment to match this project. The development plan and the PID assessment have not been matched for many years, which makes Mary's job much, much harder as this goes forward. So a new PID assessment or PSAP is required at the end of September every single year. So we're trying to do both of those things at once here with this project.
With this one and the next ordinance, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So Mike, how I take this is, there's been a lot of things with Entrada, and Mr. Beatty's here, and I really appreciate all the work, and council guys sitting down and walking through this, along with planning and zoning. We get these passed tonight. I think we have the new development plan, how Entrada is going to be zoned with the appropriate PID assessments for the lot, so you don't have a restaurant want to come into a lot that has a hotel and they can't afford the lot. I think this is kind of cleaning up the playing field, getting everything in place, hopefully some PID reductions as well, to make the lots more affordable, then really get this thing. Had, as you know, good activity, and we have some other good things here coming in the future, but this is, in my mind, not a commercial developer, as you know, it's cleanup. It's just getting all the right things in the right place to make sure this can be a success.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mayor. So the opportunity here, I know we have to redo the PID. We had a workshop on that, and that's important that we get done. So I appreciate that. Does this create the possibility for a commercial developer to come in at a lower PID expense, to Kim's point, to remove some barriers for, say, that restaurant Kim described, or a single?
Yes, sir, but what we passed last meeting actually has a greater opportunity to do that. We're redeeming $3.4 million in bonds. That was passed at the last meeting. And once that's done in a couple of months, we started the paperwork now and we'll get that kicked out. Once that's done, that'll reduce those assessments significantly.
So it's fair to say we're reducing the barrier for commercial development, at least from a PID expense.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
For everyone. I mean,
Certainly for that.
every lot.
And Mayor, I think, from my point of view, I think it's a great thing to clean this up. It makes it easier for them to move forward.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be great to continue to reinforce as much as we can to get as much commercial in there, not just for the residents of Westlake that would love to enjoy that, but also for the tax revenue that we'd love to be pulling in there.
Mr. Beatty, please come on up. I just want to kind of step back, and this is a new council, right? Anna's our tenured council person. Mr. Beatty's been through this thing. I'm not going to go back and look behind us. We're looking forward. Everybody's been very cooperative. Thank you, working with. This is us cleaning this up. I am very excited about Entrada, the opportunities we have in front of us, some of the things we discussed, just the opportunities. But we have to do this to give him a fair fight, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Michael Beatty, 4110 Riverwalk Drive. In addition to the prepayment, or whatever the right term is, for sending the bondholder some money, this also removes the separate assessment that was on the Phase 2 property. It was initially supposed to be the 80 houses, and it was water, sewer, streets, and drainage. So none of that public infrastructure is under that assessment amount, meaning in addition to the money that actually goes back out, the assessments for the commercial area for Phase 2 will be significantly lower. So it's a much lower hurdle because everybody in that world deals in cap rates and NOI. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Any other questions?
The only thing I have as a comment is I want to reiterate what I think P&Z has said, is that looking at this new development plan, and I know we removed a lot of the footprints in that, but the original plan had a lot more parking because it had all of the commercial areas. So my concern is just to make sure that as we move forward, when we are addressing site plans, that we really look at adequate parking, because the way that it's presented today, it seems like it's very lacking. I know we do have a parking structure, but that parking structure can only fit so many cars. I think we really need to look at what other options we have for housing and for the, specifically for the block K, which we're putting in. I know that we have the parking here in the Solani area, but I do think that's a concern we need to address as we move forward.
And we still have the ability to prove those as those things come up, to make those adjustments.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And I will also say, Terry Wilkinson, one of our P&Z commissioners, he also had another thought at the end of the meeting that he didn't get into the conditions, but something he wants us to make sure that we're thinking about in the future, and that's on-street parking within Entrada. Those streets are only 24 feet wide, and if we have much on-street parking at all, you're not going to be able to get a fire truck or ambulance past that. So he wants us to really be thinking through, and I've been thinking through a little bit as well, and we're going to meet with the developer later on about how we can address that, whether that's a fire lane on one side of the street and not on the other, or whether we just say the entire streets within Entrada are fire lanes and you can't have any on-street parking whatsoever. But it's going to be important that we can maintain access for emergency services in that area.
And I drive through there 3 or 4 times a week just checking on things. The other night, Saturday night, they had a party at the banquet hall, and people were parked on that circle. That we got to change that. It's really tight. So I think that point is whatever makes sense. Any other questions or comments? I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Perfect. I will close the public hearing. I have a motion to approve Ordinance 1001.
So moved.
With those conditions.
With those.
And the additional Block P for 18 units and Westlake Park Edition meeting the standards within 959.
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure that I have that motion correct.
Is that what you meant?
That's exactly what I meant. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank y'all. That's a big deal. Okay, item 1-2, hold public hearing, discuss, consider an act to adopt ordinance 1003, accepting and approving a 2024 amended and restated service and assessment plan and assessment role for the Solano Public Improvement District, making a final of special benefit of the property in the district, levying special assessments against property within the district and establishing a lien on such property, evaluating, vacating a portion of the existing assessment and directing the transfer of amounts previously collected to redeem outstanding bonds, excuse me, providing the method of assessment and the payment of the assessments in accordance with Chapter 372 Texas Local Government Code as amended, providing penalties and interest on delinquent assessments, providing severability, and providing an effective date. Is that Mary?
It is.
Mayor and Council, Mary Petty, P3 Works, we're your PIT administrator. And everything he read is everything we're going to do. So remember, normally we're here and we're doing an annual service and assessment plan update. We just reflect the changes in the assessment roll, newly platted property, et cetera. We don't have to call a public hearing in that instance, and we don't have to adjust any levies. So we are doing some significant changes, but what we're not doing is we're not increasing the levy on anyone's property today. However, we are reallocating the levy to property that originally could not be developed, and since that gas well head was abandoned, it is now developable property. And in your zoning ordinance that you just acted upon, we moved a significant amount of infrastructure, vertical infrastructure, to that area. Therefore, it now has a special benefit from those improvements and needs to pay its appropriate share of the assessments. So in doing so, we are naturally lowering everyone else's assessments. So if you recall in 2015 when these assessments were levied, we levied to issue about $25 million in bonds. Within that levy was also a reimbursement to the developer. The developer mentioned that it was to pay for infrastructure that was never constructed. So within this action item, we are also vacating that portion of the reimbursement obligation to the developer. Again, that acts to lower the assessments on everyone else. And then for those dollars that have been collected, they will serve as a credit to the property, but it allows us to also redeem bonds because those bond investors are in a first position expecting that infrastructure to be constructed, and it was not. And so it will further lower the assessments on everybody and redeem bonds. Normally, when we're redeeming bonds, we're also looking to see if there's any prepayments that have been made. We have some significant dollars in the prepayment account, so we're capturing that cash. We're also right-sizing the debt service reserve in anticipation of all of these reductions and gathering up all excess interest earnings. So there is quite a few revenue sources that are going to act to serve as the redemption amount. Not only the redemption amount on the bonds, which will lower the assessments, we also are vacating that reimbursement to the developer with their permission. Now, in all of the documentations, you also have a landowner's consent. Statute requires us to mail notice, call a public hearing. That public hearing was called last month, where you had the preliminary service and assessment plan attached to it. Between then and now, we worked through some tax office issues where parcels had been filed as a meets and bounds description and not a plat. And so that causes, let's just say it wreaks havoc on a lot of issues, which is why I usually, and you all don't allow that to happen here, but somehow it happened. So it created an issue between your preliminary service and assessment plan and this one. Because the landowner is only the developer, they have granted their permission to adjust those components because that was the right sizing of it. So that is also being done here in your service and assessment plan. Additionally, it's also serving as your annual update for all the other parcels. But again, they're recognizing those credits and those reductions in assessments. So just make sure I'm covering all my notes because there were significant amounts. Okay, that covers it. So Councilmember Reeves asked earlier, how are we going to recognize when a site plan comes in? Are they building? So remember, in the back of your service and assessment plan is also your seller's disclosures. So the developer actually has to request from us a seller's disclosure because this one is not just, oh, I'm buying a lot. It is, I am buying a piece of property that's supposed to have this use and this many square feet. When that site plan comes through, we will have recognized that's what's supposed to be built, and if it's not, it will require prepayment. So we will work closely with town staff to make sure that occurs prior to. And so you're writing the development plan, the service and assessment plan, and as we march forward, we very well may see other prepayments come across. And again, next year is actually the year that you could refund these bonds, and so we're probably going to be working with your financial advisors and bond counsels to look at what that might look like in conjunction for any interest savings or anything else like that. So I'll be back early next year again. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council?
So this will either today or next year, this will serve to reduce our bonds?
Yes, sir. So you also, in your last meeting, passed a resolution to authorize staff to confirm with the trustee, which is U.S. Bank, and authorize your FA and bond counsel to be working on all the paperwork to make that happen. Inside the indenture, which is your contract between the trustee and the town for these bonds, are certain provisions on how you have to walk through that. It requires a 30-day notice by the trustee to bond investors, and so we are in that waiting period right now. So right now that target date is October 15th, and that's what the notice will be provided for. When you take action on this, it then allows us to lower the assessments, and we've already accepted that resolution for you to authorize the calling of those bonds, so now we're matching those items together.
So these are all callable bonds. We're going to do that.
It's under an extraordinary optional redemption provision. So it's not your normal callable feature. That's what's going to happen next year, but this is an extraordinary optional redemption feature that's housed inside that indenture.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Not for Ms. Petty, but we do have Michael Beatty with us real quick. And I would, Mike, if you mind coming up for the podium for just 1 second, I want to just ask one little question. Some of the issues that we had through this that you've been working through with Marion, thank you very much for your cooperation in that.
Yep.
Is were caused due to the sale of property by Meets and Bounds. Is there any other property out there right now that you know of it's for sale by Meets and Bounds?
We have someone that wants to buy part of the actual parking lot here. We're working on a survey and get a plat in front of you that can hopefully be approved in less than the previous time frames required.
Okay.
She is anxious to close. She wants to close within a week, kind of thing. It's for a family office, minerals.
Can you push that to us as quickly as possible? We'll try to get that approved and through.
We'll get on it, Mike.
In time so that we don't have to do that by Meets and Bounds. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Wade. Any other questions? We'll now open up public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? A closed public hearing. Do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 1003?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All approved?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Outstanding. Thank you all. 1-3, hold public hearing to discuss, consider, and act to adopt Ordinance 1002, approving amendments to Ordinance 928 and 939 as amended, Regulation PD, zoning district known as Westlake Ranch, for an approximate 3-acre portion of land platted as Aspen Estates, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is generally located east of Pearson Lane and south of Aspen Lane. The applicant has requested applicant, they want to send this back to P&Z, so I think, Wade, we need to make a motion on a continuance of the public hearing?
Yes, sir. We'll need to open the public hearing first,
Okay.
and then we can have a motion to continue to September the 16th, I believe. Let me check real fast.
I will open up a public hearing for Ordinance 1002. Anybody wish to speak? I will close the public hearing.
No,
I'll
sir.
keep
We need to leave
the public hearing open
Yes,
until
sir.
9:16.
We're going to ask for a motion to continue the public hearing to September the 16th.
Can I get a motion to continue the public hearing on Ordinance 1002?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All approved? All in favor?
Aye.
And a quick explanation on this, Mayor and Council. So we've got, within this ordinance, we're asking 3 plats to be moved down to 2. The applicant is now thinking about going from 3 plats to 1, and is asking that this be moved back down to planning and zoning so they can go through that correct process again. By continuing the public hearing, it removes our requirement for a second notice and allows this to happen much faster for the applicant.
Okay. Were there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 1-4, this is a personal record of public hearings. Hold public hearing, discuss, consider, and act regarding Resolution 24-55 approving a replat for lots 13R-1A and 13R-1B, Block 1 of the Vaquero, Phase 1 Residential Addition, Town of Westlake, Tarrant County, Texas. This property is generally located west of Post Oak Place, east of Hawthorne Way, and south of Vaquero Club.
Mayor and council, before I give this to Helen E. for a further discussion, if council so desires, I'll give the skinny on this one as well. This is two lots. I'm sorry, this is one lot that's going to be divided into two. The smaller of the two lots, it does meet the requirements in Vaquero for the minimum size lot. All setbacks meet our requirements and Vaquero's requirements as well. So staff is asking that this move forward as well. But again, Helen Eve is available for further discussion within the presentation.
Any questions? Open up a public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak? Close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to pass Resolution 24-55?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Item J, regular action items. 24-279, discuss, consider, and act to excuse mayor, council absences of any. I don't think we have any.
I have one for first meeting in October.
Oh. So we'll note that you'll be missing the first meeting in October.
Yeah, for work.
Do we approve that now or just note it?
You can. Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion to approve Dr. White's absence October meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Tough crowd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The time is now, clock's out, is 5:14. The Town Council Board of Trustees will conduct a closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, annotated Chapter 551, for the purpose of seeking confidential legal advice from the town attorney / Westlake Academy attorney for the following. 1, Section 551.071. 2, consultation with attorney to seek advice of counsel, Entrada Public Improvement District. 2, Section 551.074A1, deliberation regarding personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties of a public officer or employee, appointment or reappointment of boards and commissions. That time is now 5:15 to executive session.